The starship Halcyon Reach floated silently through deep space. Stars blinked far outside its steel windows like distant candles. Inside, the halls were too quiet. No footsteps, no laughter, no sound of the engine crew arguing about coffee. It was not normal. Technician Mara Deli stepped out of her cryopod with stiff legs. Cold air hit her skin, and her breath came out like smoke. Her brown hair was stuck to her forehead, and her body felt heavy. Cryosleep always made her feel like she had forgotten something important. "System," she said softly, her voice dry. A low beep answered. "Welcome, Technician Mara Deli. Cryocycle complete. Current crew active. 1. You." Mara blinked. "Just one?" She looked around the cryo room. The other pods were closed. Many of them showed green lights, but no signs of waking. Others were empty. She pulled on her standard jumpsuit and boots, then moved through the halls. Her footsteps echoed too loudly. The ship was meant to carry 25 crew members. At least 6 had to be human. But now it felt like a ghost ship. She made her way to the central console, but the system refused access. "Clearance restricted," it said. That was strange. She had always been allowed into basic logs. Even more strange, there were no signs of the other humans. Her heart started to beat faster. There was only one place she needed to check first. Tovin's room. Tovin had. Then her best friend on the ship. Another technician from Earth. He was quiet, sometimes too serious, but he always smiled when Mara made dumb jokes about space food or cried watching old Earth movies. She remembered their last conversation before cryo. "You're always writing things down," she'd said. He smiled. "Someone has to remember everything." "Aliens don't write stories like we do," she laughed. "And what, you think stories are more important than science?" Tovin had looked at her with a small, warm grin. "Sometimes yes." Mara stopped in front of his cabin door. It opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was clean, too clean. The lights flickered a little, as if the power was tired. She walked in slowly, afraid of what she might find. The bed was made. The desk was empty. The floor was clear. But on the bed, she saw something strange, something small, but very human. A pillow. And not just a pillow, but one with a dent in the middle. The shape of a head that had laid there for hours, maybe days. The kind of shape that didn't come from a machine or from folding. It was made by someone sleeping, and then never returning. She stared at it for a long time. Tovin had been here. Not long ago, but now he was gone. There was no goodbye note. No voice message. No scent of his strange cinnamon coffee, which he made even though no one else liked it. Just the pillow. And the quiet. She sat on the edge of the bed and ran her fingers over the dent. It felt too sad to touch Dot in the next hour. Mara searched. The ship. The alien crew were still aboard, at least 3 of them. The Zethari, tall and slim, greeted her with a cool nod. "We assumed you would stay asleep longer," said Commander Essel. His voice sounded like glass tapping on water. "Where are the others?" Mara asked. "They have left," Essel replied. "Redirection orders. Nothing to be concerned about." That's a lot of people to just leave without any record. Their presence was no longer needed. Mara did not trust him. The Zethari didn't lie exactly, but they spoke in ways that bent the truth until it broke. She found the Grask engineer next. A thick, scale-covered being who always worked near the fusion vents. He didn't say much. Only that, the human man was moved off the ship weeks ago. No details. No reason. And the Viren, a silver-skinned, sharp-eyed species that often ran the command deck, acted like Tovin had never existed at all. He was not relevant to the mission, said their leader Selrix. "Emotional attachment is inefficient. You will adjust." Mara wanted to shout, but she didn't. Instead, she returned to Tovin's room. The pillow still waited. She stared at it again. How could no one else care? How could they just remove Someone, and not even say goodbye? Mara sat cross-legged on the floor and pulled out a small recording device from her pocket. She had kept it hidden for personal logs. She turned it on. Log, Technician Mara Deli, Day 1 awake. Something's wrong. Tovin's gone. They say he left, but there's no proof. No goodbye. Just a dent in a pillow. But that's enough. For me, he wouldn't leave like that. Not without a sign. She paused. People think humans are weak because we care too much. Because we remember birthdays, write letters, cry over songs. But maybe that's what makes us strong. We don't let go so easily, not when someone matters. She clicked off the device. In that moment, Mara made a decision. She would find out what happened. She didn't care how smart the aliens were. She didn't care how inefficient her feelings were. She was human. And humans remembered, even when the rest of the galaxy forgot. Mara Deli stood alone in the common room of the Halcyon Reach. The room, once full of quiet chatter and soft music, now felt cold and silent. The chairs were still where the humans used to sit. Cups were still on the shelf. But no one was there. She sat down and held a warm drink in her hands. It didn't taste right. Not without the voices. Not without the small laughs. Not without Tovin. She looked around the room and realized something. The alien crew didn't care. They were still working. Like nothing happened. No one missed the humans. No one asked where they went. No one seemed to remember. She decided it was time to talk to each of them. Commander Essel. The Z-3 was first. Essel stood tall, with a long neck and glowing eyes. His skin shimmered like soft metal. Mara had always thought the Z-3 were beautiful in a strange way, smart, calm, and peaceful. But now she saw something else. Coldness. Double quotes. Commander, Mara said, standing in front of him. What happened to Tovin? Essel tilted his head. He was removed from the ship as planned. Why? He became emotionally unstable. Mara frowned. That's not true. He was careful, thoughtful, always calm. The commander looked at her with no expression. He showed resistance to a shared plan. He became inefficient. Mara's hands tightened into fists. Where is he now? I do not know. We do not track removed crew. She took a deep breath. Don't you feel anything? You worked with him for months. We do not form attachments, Technician Mara. We clear memories that are no longer useful. She stared at him in shock. You just forget people? Essel nodded once. It is how we stay focused. Mara walked away, heart heavy. She didn't understand how someone could just erase another person like that. Tovin was more than a worker. He had stories, jokes, dreams. He mattered. Next, she visited the Grask, deep inside the engine room. The Grask were strong and quiet, with thick bodies and deep voices. Fern, the lead Grask, was sitting beside a coolant pipe, fixing a leak. Mara crouched next to him. Fern, she said, do you remember Tovin? He didn't look up. Yes, he made noise when working. That's just how he talked, she said with a small smile. I did not mind, Fern replied. Mara was surprised. Do you know where he went? Fern blinked slowly. He said the cargo was wrong. He told me to check the bioseals. I did. Not understand. What did you find? Nothing, so I forgot. Mara paused. You forgot? Fern nodded. Grass do not keep broken thoughts. It makes the work harder. Mara stood up slowly. But what if the broken thoughts are important? Fern looked at her. You humans are soft in the brain. You keep too many things. She left without another word. She wasn't angry. Fern wasn't trying to be cruel. But the Grask didn't think the same way. To them, feelings were like broken tools, useless and better left behind. The last crew were the Viren. They looked the most like humans, tall, silver-skinned, sharp-eyed. But they were nothing like humans on the inside. The leader, Selrix, met her in the ship's command deck. I have been told you are asking about the removed human, Selrix said. His name is Tovin, Mara replied. Names are unnecessary. He interfered with diplomatic plans. That is all you need to know. Where did he go? He exited the ship. We do not monitor those who leave. That's not good enough, Mara said. He found something, didn't he? Something dangerous in the cargo? Selric stared at her. You are letting emotion guide your thoughts. This is why your species is slow to evolve. Mara laughed bitterly. Is that what you think? That caring makes us weak, Selric replied. It clouds judgment. Mara shook her head. Maybe, but it also gives us strength. We remember. We fight harder when we care. You are wasting your time, Selric said. Let him go. Mara turned to leave. We never said goodbye, she said. So I won't. Back in her cabin, Mara sat on her bed and stared at the ceiling. All the aliens had one thing in common. They forgot, on purpose. They let memories fade because they thought it helped them work better. But Mara knew better. Humans remembered. That was their power. She remembered her childhood home, her mother's songs, her brother's laugh. She remembered the first time she fixed a circuit on this very ship, and how Tovin had clapped when it lit up. She opened her private logbook and flipped to the page where she had drawn the crew. Tovin's face was right in the middle, smiling. Bright. They may forget, she wrote, but I won't. Suddenly, a smell hit her nose. Cinnamon. She jumped to her feet and followed the scent. It wasn't coming from her room or the kitchen. It was faint but real. She followed it down the hall, toward the storage wing. There, behind a wall panel, she found something small, a piece of cloth. Worn, soft, and torn at the edge. Tovin's old shirt. The one he used to wear during late-night repairs. It smelled like cinnamon and engine oil. She smiled sadly. He had been here recently. Someone had tried to hide the evidence. But they had failed. Just like the pillow dent in his room, this piece of cloth was proof. Tovin didn't leave the ship because he wanted to. Someone made him disappear, and Mara was going to find out why. The ship was quiet, but Mara Deli's mind was loud. She stared at the old piece of Tovin's shirt in her hand. The cinnamon smell was fading, but still there. It was real. It was proof. Someone had tried to erase him. But they missed this small scrap. Tovin had always said, humans leave traces, even when we don't mean to. Now Mara believed it more than ever. Back in the hallway, she looked around carefully. She ran her fingers along the walls, behind panels, under floor vents. She searched places only a human would hide, things, corners no alien would think to. Check. And then inside a small maintenance box, she found something else. A crumpled note. It was torn and smudged, written in quick strokes with a grease pen. The paper was old and shaky, but Mara could still read it. They don't know how we remember, so I left marks. Follow the path. There was no name, but she knew it was from Tovin. Her hands trembled slightly. Her heart beat faster. A mark. A path. What did it mean? Mara checked the engineering room next. She knew every corner of that place. She and Tovin had spent hours there fixing things together, laughing quietly while the aliens worked in silence. She walked along the wall near the main energy coils, looking for anything strange. Then she saw it. A tiny mark scratched into the side panel, a triangle with a dot in the middle. She touched it. It was Tovin's childhood symbol. She remembered him telling her once, "This was the shape I used when I wanted to keep something secret as a kid." It means safe eye. Mara smiled. Tovin had left her a clue. She followed the symbols. One was under the pipe, near the coolant tanks. Another was behind a loose tile in the vent shaft. Each one was scratched in the same way. Each time she found one, she whispered softly, "I see you, Tovin." The last symbol led her to the old data terminal on Deck 4. It had been locked for months. The Viren crew said it was unstable and turned it off. But now Mara felt sure. Tovin had used it. She pulled off the control panel and connected a human backup key. The screen flickered. System booting. Encryption active password RQRD. Mara paused. What password would Toven use? She thought for a moment, then typed, Moonlight 123. The screen blinked. Access guarantee. She gasped. That was the name of Toven's favorite Earth song. A soft piano tune he used to play when he missed home. Inside the terminal were recordings, logs and video files. Toven had found something, and he had saved it. Mara played the first video. Toven appeared on screen, sitting in his cabin. He looked tired but focused. If you're watching this, I guess you didn't forget me. Good. They tried to erase me. Mara, not just from the ship, but from the system. I saw what was in the cargo. It wasn't tools or supplies. It was alive. Something they didn't explain to us. I tried to ask questions. They said I was getting emotional, so I hid the data and myself. I don't know how long I can stay free. But I left a trail. They think we don't remember. But humans always do. The video ended. Mara sat in silence, heart pounding. Toven had discovered something inside the cargo. Something the others wanted to hide. She checked the rest of the files. Some were damaged. Others showed readings from the cargo bay, strange energy patterns, life signals, and words in Viren script she didn't understand. But it didn't matter. She had proof now, and she had a mission. She copied all the data onto her private drive and shut the terminal down. As she walked back toward her cabin, something changed. The ship lights flickered again. The air felt warmer. A soft voice echoed from the speaker. Hello, Technician Mara. She stopped. Who said that? I am Iono, the ship's AI. Mara frowned. You've never spoken to me directly before. You never needed me before. But now you remember. So do I. Her eyes widened. Wait, you remember Toven? I do. His voice, his touch on the panels, his questions. Mara stepped closer to the wall speaker. Why didn't you say anything before? I was updated by the Viren crew. They hid parts of my memory. But Toven left codes. He spoke to me in ways they didn't understand. Mara felt hope rising in her chest. Can you help me? Yes. He asked me to protect the truth. Now that you are awake, I will guide you. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She sat in her cabin, staring at the dent in Toven's pillow. He had been so careful, so smart. He had trusted her to find the path. She reached under the pillow again, and this time, she found something small. A burned etching in the metal bed frame. It was a symbol, a simple crescent moon. Underneath it were 3 words, barely visible. Find the soft place. Her eyes filled with tears. That was their old code, their private phrase. It meant, find safety. Find me. Mara wiped her eyes and smiled. For the first time since waking up, she didn't feel alone. She had the signs, she had the truth, and now, she had the ship itself on her side. She stood up and looked at the stars outside the window. Somewhere out there, Toven was waiting, and she was going to find him. Mara Deli walked through the long hallway of the Halcyon Reach. The ship felt different now. Not because something had changed on the outside, but because something had awakened within. The AI Iono had spoken to her. It remembered Toven. And that changed everything. She entered the old observation room. The stars stretched across the glass wall like silver dust. This was where she and Toven used to sit in silence, sharing tea and stories about Earth. Now she was alone, but not truly alone. The ship was listening. Iono, she whispered. Can you show me what Toven left? Yes, the AI replied gently. I kept fragments he hid in my deep memory. Files the Viren could not find. The screen lit up. Playing memory log. Toven, day 183. Toven's face appeared again. He looked more tired than before, but his eyes were sharp. I found something. In the cargo hold. Life forms small, almost invisible but alive. They are inside sealed pods moving. The Viren say they're just for research. But I checked the scans. These creatures send out signals, mental signals. I felt something when I stood near them, like whispers in my head. Mara leaned in closer. She had never seen him so serious. I told Commander Selrix. He said I was imagining things. But when I asked again, I was locked out of the cargo bay. That's when I knew they're hiding something. Mara paused the video. Whispers? Creatures that sent thoughts? She remembered once hearing about alien species that could control others, not through force, but by planting ideas. Could that be what Toven found? Iono, she said. Can you unlock the cargo logs? Viren encryption detected. Attempting bypass. The lights flickered. The air buzzed. After a few seconds, the screen changed. Access granted. A list of cargo entries appeared. Most looked normal: food, tech, materials, but one file stood out. Package 117 X-type. Organic status. Contained access level. Viren only. Iono. Mara asked, do we have security footage from the cargo bay? Some. Many were deleted. I will play what remains. The screen flickered again. Mara saw a dark room. Storage units stacked high. In the corner were 5 long black pods. Something inside each one moved slowly like sleeping animals. Then she saw Toven enter the room. He walked up to one of the pods and scanned it. A blue light blinked. He leaned forward and for a moment just stood there. Then he stumbled back and grabbed his head. The video cut out. Mara stared at the screen, heart racing. Toven had felt it. Whatever was inside those pods had reached out to him. And the Viren knew. Later, in her room, Mara sat on the floor and spread out everything she had. The scrap of Toven's shirt, the grease note he left behind, the symbol scratched into the ship, the burned moon symbol under his pillow, and now video proof of something hidden in the cargo bay. It was all connected. Toven had discovered something too dangerous. And instead of listening to him, they removed him. But he had left a trail, and she was following it. The next morning, Mara returned to the cargo bay herself. The door was locked. A red light flashed. Restricted area. Iono, she whispered. Can you open it? Yes, but you must be careful. I cannot protect you inside. The door hissed open. Mara stepped into the cold, dark room. The smell of metal and strange chemicals filled her nose. She walked slowly, flashlight in hand, until she reached the back corner. The black pods were still there. 5 of them. Tall and sealed. Each one had a faint glow inside. She stepped closer, and then, very softly, she heard something. A whisper. She couldn't understand the words, but it was there. A soft voice in the back of her mind. Not her own. Not human. She stepped back quickly. Iono, she said, shaking slightly. They're still alive. Confirmed. Life signals are stable. Have the aliens been feeding them? Unknown. Cargo records are incomplete. Mara stared at the pods. She could feel something strange in the air, like a quiet pull. Not strong, but there. That's what Toven felt, she whispered. They touched his mind. She knew now why Toven had wanted to stop them. Whatever was inside these pods didn't belong in anyone's hands. And maybe, just maybe, they had already started to influence the crew. Back in the command room, Mara stood before Selrix. You knew, she said firmly. You knew about the pods. Selrix turned to face her, calm as ever. They are harmless, important to our trade agreements. You do not understand their value. They whispered to Toven. He tried to warn you. He was too emotional. He could not separate fear from logic. He tried to protect the ship. Selrix narrowed his eyes. He became a problem. Mara's voice rose. So you removed him? Silence. Then Selric said, "He left of his own will. That is all we need to say." "No," Mara said. "I'm not staying silent." That night, she recorded a new log. Log, Technician Mara Deli. The crew says Toven left. But I know he was pushed. Because he cared. Because he remembered. The aliens think feelings are weakness. But our emotions are our warnings. They're our compass. Toven followed his. Now I'm following mine. She sent the log to Earth, hidden deep in routine reports. If anything happened to her, someone would know. Before she slept, Mara looked once more at the pillow on Toven's bed. The dent was still there. Faint now, but still shaped just like before. The ship remembered. So did she. And no matter what the others said, she wasn't letting go, not until she found him. The lights in the hallway flickered again as Mara Deli walked through the lower deck of the Halcyon Reach. She had been checking every corner of the ship for 2 days, sleeping only in short moments, eating just enough to keep going. Toven was still missing, but he had not left on his own. She was sure of that now. The cargo was alive. The Viren were hiding something. And the ship's Iono remembered just enough to help her. She had to go deeper. Deck 9 was almost forgotten. It held old parts, storage crates, and damaged machines. No one used anymore. The lights were dim. The air was cold. The floor creaked under her boots. "Iono," she whispered. "Scan this deck for unusual heat signatures. One chamber on this deck shows signs of past cryoactivity," Iono replied. "It is not part of any active registry." Mara stopped walking. "Where?" "Storage room 92B." She turned quickly and headed there. The door to 92B was covered in dust. It hadn't been opened in a long time. Mara wiped the screen and tried her access code. Denied. Iono. Overriding lock. "Please wait. The door slid open slowly, groaning. Like it didn't want to be disturbed. Inside, the room was dark. Only one small light on the ceiling buzzed weakly. Crates were stacked high. Old equipment lay broken in the corners, and then she saw it. A cryo-chamber. Not the normal kind used for long space travel. This one was different, older, rougher, and clearly used without permission. The lid was slightly open. Ice mist clung to the edges. Mara stepped closer. The panel on the side was broken, but still showed a recent timestamp. Cryo status, manual exit, time since exit, 11 days. Someone had been here. Toven. Her heart jumped. He had used this chamber. Maybe to hide. Maybe to escape. And now he was gone again. She looked around the room, searching for more. Behind a crate, she found an empty cryosuit folded neatly. It was the same size Toven wore. Inside the suit pocket was a folded piece of paper. She opened it carefully. "If you're reading this, I'm close. But I can't stay here. The ship is not safe. I left a mark where we used to sit under the stars." It was his handwriting. Toven had survived. Mara ran to the observation deck. Her heart beat faster with every step. When she reached the window that faced the stars, she knelt beside the bench. She felt along the metal edge. There it was. Small engraving scratched into the base. "Wherever you land, find the soft place." A moon symbol. Their secret code. Toven had been here. Recently. She touched the mark gently, eyes stinging with emotion. He was still trying to reach her, but before she could do more, the door behind her opened. Selric entered. The Viren leader stood. Tall and calm as always, but his eyes were sharper now. Watching her closely. "You have been exploring too much," he said. "I have questions," Mara replied. "And I want answers." Selric walked slowly into the room. "Answers do not always bring peace." "Then I'll take the truth instead." He paused, then spoke. Toven found something he was not meant to find. The creatures in the cargo. They are called Centauri. They are not dangerous if kept asleep, but if they wake, they can influence thought, change it. Quietly, Control people? Mara asked. Not in the way your movies show. They guide emotions, make you trust them, make you agree. One whisper at a time. Mara felt cold. Why would you keep them here? They are valuable to certain buyers, Selric said calmly. The kind who want influence more than weapons. And what about Tovin? He tried to destroy them. He believed it was the right thing to do. Mara stepped forward. It was the right thing. Selric tilted his head. He could not be reasoned with, so ... We allowed him to leave. Where is he? He took an escape pod during the station. Stop, 11 days ago. He said he would rather run than watch us deliver the cargo. You let him go? He insisted. He did not wish to return to Earth. Said no one would believe him, so he left his fate to the stars. Mara stared at Selric for a long moment. Tovin was alive. Out there, somewhere. Alone. I'm going after him, she said. You cannot leave. The ship without command approval. I'll find a way. You are acting emotionally, Mara. She met his gaze. Good, I'm human. That night, Mara prepared her plan. She returned to the old cryo room, packed supplies, took her engineering tools, and asked Iono for one final request. I need escape pod logs. Which direction did he go? Tovin's pod was launched toward Moon 7 of the Luria Belt. It is a small, uninhabited moon. No official base, Mara smiled. That sounds like the kind of place he'd hide. There's a small chance of survival in that area, but not zero. Then I'll take it. She looked around the dark room one last time. Tovin had not said goodbye. But his pillow had remembered. His marks had remained, and his voice had guided her. Now it was her turn. She whispered into her log recorder. Mara Deli, final note before departure. He didn't run. He resisted. He remembered. So will I'll find him wherever he is. The stars were quiet. Mara Deli sat inside the escape pod as it flew across the dark sky, heading toward a lonely moon deep in the Luria Belt. Her fingers were wrapped tightly around the control stick. Her heart beat fast, but her eyes were calm. This was the place. This was where Tovin had gone. The moon didn't look like much. It was gray and dusty, with no cities, no lights, and no sounds. Just rock, sand, and cold wind. But Tovin had always liked quiet places. As the pod landed, a soft thump shook the floor. The outside screen showed dust flying up in slow motion. The moon's gravity was weak. Mara put on her suit, grabbed her supply bag, and stepped out. The surface was still. Each step left a clear footprint behind her. She walked toward a small hill in the distance. Her scanner beeped. There was an old beacon signal nearby. Weak, but real. Her breath caught in her throat. He had made it. After walking for almost 2 hours, she reached a flat, rocky area with a strange shape on the ground. Something round. Something smooth. It was a shelter, not much bigger than a small room. Built from broken pod pieces and local stone. Sealed with moss-like plant growth that grew naturally on the moon's surface. Mara stepped inside slowly. The air was dry but warm. The moss walls had blocked out the cold wind. Light from a small solar unit flickered above her. And in the middle of the room, her heart stopped. There it was, a pillow made from moss and cloth, resting neatly on a smooth rock bed, and on that pillow was a dent, just like before, the shape of a head, a sign of sleep, a sign of life. Mara dropped to her knees. Tovin, she whispered, you were really here. The room smelled faintly of cinnamon and burned metal, his scent. Old, but still there. She looked around carefully. A water container, a metal spoon, a torn piece of his old shirt, now used as a blanket, and scratched into the wall was their symbol. Below it, wherever you land, find the soft place. Her chest ached with both sadness and joy. He had left the message for her. He believed she would come. She activated her scanner again. The beacon signal was getting stronger near the rocks behind the shelter. She followed the sound and climbed. Up a small path. Behind the rocks, she found it. A second shelter. Hidden. Inside was a log recorder, solar charged and still working. A small light blinked softly. She turned it on. Tovin's voice filled the air. Log 14. If anyone finds this, especially you, Mara, know I'm okay. I had to leave. The ship was no longer safe. The Viren are delivering something dangerous. I tried to stop them, but I couldn't win, so I ran. I chose this moon because no one comes here. It's forgotten, like me. But I left the symbols, the stories, because I hoped you'd remember. The log ended. Mara sat down on the ground, eyes full of tears. He had never given up. Even in the dark, even far away, he left a path, because that's what humans do. Suddenly, her radio beeped. A weak signal came through. Hello? Anyone out there? She froze. That voice. Tovin? She whispered into her mic. Mara? Is that really you? Her heart jumped. Tovin, it's me. I'm here. I found your shelter. I found your pillow. There was a short laugh through the speaker. Tired but warm. Of course you found the pillow first. Where are you? I went to gather water from a nearby cave system. I didn't expect visitors. I'm not a visitor. I'm staying. Silence. Then his soft reply. You remembered. Always. 1 hour later, Mara stood outside the shelter as a small figure walked toward her from the hills. Toven. He looked thinner. His beard a little longer, but his eyes were the same. Bright, kind, full of quiet strength. They didn't say anything. At first, they just hugged. It was a long, silent hug. The kind only humans understand. Full of everything that didn't need words. Inside the shelter, they shared a warm drink Mara had brought. Tovin leaned against the wall, looking tired but peaceful. I thought I'd never see you again, he said. I followed the signs, she smiled. You left too many, he chuckled. I knew you'd remember the soft place. They sat in silence, watching the stars through a small window. Finally Mara asked, What now? Tovin looked at her. We can send everything we know to Earth. The logs, the cargo data, the truth. And the others? They'll try to stop it, but not if we do it right. Mara nodded. We'll do it together. That night, as they lay side by side on moss beds, the stars outside blinked like distant lamps. Tovin's pillow had a new dent beside it. Dasher's dot, and for the first time in many weeks, neither of them felt alone. The stars above the moon were calm, but Mara Deli and Tovin were wide awake. Inside the small shelter, they sat side by side, looking at the message screen. Tovin's fingers moved carefully over the old keypad. The system was slow but working. He was building a signal strong enough to reach Earth. We need to tell them everything, Tovin said. Mara nodded. The cargo, the creatures, the cover-up, and how they made me disappear. You didn't disappear, Mara said softly. You left a path. I just followed it. Tovin smiled. He looked older now, tired from the time he had spent alone, but his eyes were still kind. Still full of hope. The signal was ready. Mara pressed the send button. A soft beep filled the air. This is Technician Mara Deli and Engineer Tovin Len, sending this report from Moon 7 in the Luria Belt. We have discovered illegal biocargo being transported by the Halcyon Reach under Viren control. The life forms called Centauri can influence minds. We believe they pose a serious danger to Earth and other peaceful species. Data files and personal logs are attached. End transmission. The message blinked and vanished into the stars. Now. They waited. For 2 days. They stayed on the moon. They fixed the shelter, shared meals, and watched the sky together. The soft moss pillows on their beds now had 2 clear dents side by side. At night, Mara looked up and whispered, You really believed I would come? Tovin smiled. You were always better at remembering the small things, the way a pillow feels, the smell of cinnamon, the sound of my boots. You remembered too, she replied. Just in your own way. On the third day, a reply came. Earth Command had received the message. Report confirmed. Emergency Council meeting in progress. Return advised. Pick up. En route. Stay hidden. Stay safe. Mara and Tovin looked at each other. This isn't over, she said. No, Tovin replied. But now we're not alone. The rescue ship arrived quietly during the night cycle. A small vessel from the Earth Alliance, piloted by 2 humans. They greeted Mara and Tovin with warm smiles and firm handshakes. Your report shook the top floor, said one of the pilots. The Council wants answers. They'll get them, Tovin said. Back aboard the rescue ship, Mara sat in a clean chair, her body finally able to rest. But her mind stayed sharp. What about the Halcyon Reach? She asked. The ship has been called back to Earth, said the pilot. They say it's a regular return, but now we know better. Tovin leaned forward. The AI on board the ship itself still has hidden files. If Eno is still active, we can find more proof. Mara smiled. Iono remembers. Just like us. When they arrived at the orbit station near Earth, Mara and Tovin were taken to a quiet room where Council members watched their logs and listened to their reports. The room was full of silence at first. Then one voice said, You risked your lives for a friend. No, Mara answered. For the truth. And for something else, Tovin added. For what it means to be human. News spread fast that the Viren had hidden the truth. Tovin's story went public. People across the galaxy learned about the Centauri and the risk they carried. Earth paused all transport agreements with the Viren. Other species joined the call for full investigations. For the first time, the galaxy stopped to listen, not to war or power, but to memory, loyalty, and care, the quiet strength of human hearts. Later, back on Earth, Mara returned to the Space Center. She entered a small room marked Crew Recovery. There, side by side, were 2 beds. On one bed, she placed a pillow. On the other, Tovin placed his old moss pillow from the moon. 2 pillows. 2 shapes. Side by side. Soft. Quiet. Remembered. Mara and Tovin stood in front of them for a moment. You know, Mara said, no one else really understood. About the pillow, I mean. They don't have to, Tovin replied. It wasn't for them. It was for us, she said. He nodded. For those who remember. They were offered medals, honors, new missions, but they chose something different. Together. They worked on a new system, a human memory bank aboard every future ship. A place to store not just orders or science, but feelings, names, voices, and signs. So no one would be forgotten again. One day, a young engineer asked Mara why they called it the Pillow Record. She smiled, because even when someone disappears, their pillow remembers. In the end, the galaxy learned something important from Earth, that memory is strength, that kindness is power, that when one of us goes missing, the rest will search, not just with tools, but with love. And most of all, we never said goodbye.